We tried out. Devin made the team. The morning of the tournament, he yells at Devin and tell him he's not on the team.
They yelled at me saying, I don't care what the roster said. I was upset and I was like, why am I not on there?
It was his decision to move his players.
Had I been there, it wouldn't have went that way. Humiliating my child is a problem for me.
Plaintiff Glenn Phillips claims the defendant improperly convinced her bank to refund part of her son's football team fees. He's suing for $250. Defendant Freddie Johnson claims the plaintiff unfairly demoted her son and humiliated him in front of his teammates. She says she owes nothing.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. The witnesses may have a seat. The Honorable Judge Jerry Springer now presiding. Good morning, Judge.
Good morning, Najee.
This is case number 136 on the docket, Phillips versus Johnson.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome, Judge.
Welcome to both of you. I should tell our viewers at home that this is, I will be rendering a virtual verdict because I say virtual because even though Najee and myself, we are here in Stamford, Connecticut, but the plaintiff and the defendant, you guys are in Atlanta, Georgia, great city. But watching at home, they're not going to know that. It looks like you're right here in the court with me. Let's see what we have here. We have the plaintiff, Glenn Phillips. Sir, you are suing the defendant, Freddie Johnson, for $250 for the return of her son's football team membership dues. Glenn, what is your case?
All right, Your Honor. Of course, we have a 7-on-7 program located here in the Atlanta area where we reach out to local young men to come on out and kind of like fine-tune their skill sets. All right, so during the spring, of course, we travel throughout the country to we do about 3 or 4 travel tournaments. So to be a part of our program, of course, is a membership fee of $500, which is broken down into payment plans for some of our parents. And the $500 it covers uniforms, travel, housing, meal plans, practice facilities, and things of that nature in regards for our ball players to be able to kind of have a good experience. All right, so earlier this year, we went on to a tournament over in Myrtle Beach where Ms. Johnson, of course, signed her son up to play on our team for the 2nd season. And we went out to Myrtle Beach, had a pretty good time actually. So while there, we broke down our teams. We have a group of about 60 ball players, so an 18U and two 15U teams. So we separated the 15U teams, and I put the young man on one team, and I, of course...
And also, Coach Phillip told him that he was on the green team.
Freddie, I'll give you a chance to respond, okay?
Okay.
Glenn, let's take it from there.
During the course of that, it seems as if once we got back from the tournament, his mom called and then informed me that, he wasn't satisfied with the team that he was placed on, and she no longer wanted him to be a part of the program. Then I explained to her, I was like, that's fine if you don't want him to hear, but I mean, we split our guys up to kind of balance out the teams to the best of our ability, so
Sure.
We're not top heavy. Then she, of course, requested a refund. I then explained to her, we're not able to refund you for your deposit because that money went towards uniform, it went towards travel because the young man traveled to the tournament, one of our team members, or one of our one of our admin over the team. No. And he stayed in the house with us. He participated in the tournament. I mean, so that was the majority of the portion for the deposit. Now, the second wave of the $250 is what carries our program throughout the rest of the season. So when the money was taken out of the account by Miss Freddie, because I told her, I said, we cannot refund you those funds. So of course, she reached back out, I'm assuming to her bank, and they took the money out of the account because I guess they assumed that it was fraudulently taken from Miss Freddie's account. So when they took the money out, it didn't just hurt our program, it kind of threw us off because we have, we reach out through our community to assist other young men on our program with funds. So it just didn't impact just our account. It impacted the other young men in our program who are less fortunate enough and are not able to provide for themselves financially to experience the same experience that the other guys are having with us.
Freddie, what is your side of the case?
Well, first of all, Devin's been playing football ever since he was 7 years old, so he knows the game pretty well. I met Coach Glenn when Devin was in 8th grade, and we played on his team. And it was a pretty good experience. So he had another team, and we tried out. Devin made the team. They had practice weekly, and they had the boys split up, and they had different teams. They had a green team and they had a blue team. Devin always practiced with the green team the whole entire time. They had a scrimmage. Devin participated in the scrimmage. He was on the green team. This is prior to going to Myrtle Beach. So I wasn't able to attend the Myrtle Beach. I already had plans before, and I had to go out of town. So I asked another teammate's parent on the team to take Devin with them. So what he's speaking of, this is somebody that we've been knowing ever since Devin was little. So it had nothing to do with he was over the team or travel fees or anything. So the morning of the tournament, he called the green team down to eat breakfast. Devin went down. He tells Devin he's not on the green team. Devin knows he's on the green team. That's who he's been practicing with the whole entire time. Not only that, his name is on the roster for the green team. So Devin goes back upstairs and gets the roster and show him I'm on the green team. He yells at Devin and tell him that he's not on the green team. Clearly at that point, he had lost his mind, because it's a difference between yelling at my child when he's on the football field and he does something wrong, but yelling at my child because he knows what he's speaking of and humiliating my child, that is a problem for me.
Okay, let me hear from Devin now. Devin, you want to step up next to your mom there?
Yes, sir.
So I'll let you say in your words what happened. Go ahead.
So the day of the tournament, he called down the green team for breakfast. So I thought I was on the green team because I've been with him the whole time practicing. And on the roster, it said I was on the green team. So I went down there, and he told me I wasn't on the green team, so I was confused. I was like, I've been practicing with him, so why am I not on there? So I went back upstairs to like show him the roster, and he yelled at me saying, oh, you're not on the green team. I don't care what the roster said. And I was like, I was upset, and I was like, why am I not on the green team if I like did all this work for it?
What about that, Coach? Was he yelled at for saying what appeared to be the truth at the time, that he was listed as being on the green team?
Is it okay if I address Devin directly?
Yeah, go ahead. And your name is?
I'm Chevelle. I'm the team director for our 7-on-7 team. I just wanted to say, David, I hate that you took this as a negative thing when Coach asked you to play for the blue team. It wasn't a negative thing. The blue team would not have gotten as far as they did without the players that he moved over. The whole and purpose of it was so that we didn't have a superior team and a non-superior team. The reason he moved the players the way he did is so we would have two teams that were in the top 5. We had two teams that told me, you know, we kicked, but we had a ball, Devin. You know, we was down there having the time of our lives. We danced, we partied, we had a great time because we were the team to beat. And that was both of our teams. And it was his decision to move his top defensive players to the blue team so that it would be fair that way. So it wasn't a knock at you to say, oh, you're not on green, you're on blue. It wasn't because he didn't think good of you. He thought great of you because he was like, no, I need my defensive players on this team so that we are actually a real competitive program. So I just want to make sure you knew that it wasn't a knock. Please don't take it that way.
Well, apparently you're a pretty good football player, right?
Yes, sir.
Well, good for you. You seem like a nice young man.
We never separated the teams to say specifically, this child is green, this child is blue.
Had I been there, it wouldn't have went that way. Devin would have never played. But Devin felt like he didn't have a choice, so he played anyway. He played, while they were there. And not only that, the person that took Devin for me texted me and told me that they had moved Devin to the green team. He didn't know why, and that I needed to speak with Devin. I spoke with Devin. Devin couldn't really talk because there were so many people around. But like I said, Devin did participate and played on the blue team. But at that point, Devin, he was humiliated. He did not want to play on the team anymore. He didn't feel the same way about Coach Glenn. So when he got back, I called Coach Glenn and, I explained to him what had happened, and that's not what I paid for. You can't just go and like, oh no, you're not on the green team now, switch the day of. It doesn't work that way. So I told him that I wanted my money back. He said no.
The coach has an authority to say what team the kid's going to play on.
I didn't get the service that I paid for. Had Devin knew that he was going to be on the blue team, we would have been able to make the decision then to like, okay, well, we're not going to play this season.
And I just wanted to address
Yes.
some of the things that Freddie said regarding practices and the separation of the teams.
Okay.
Prior to our Myrtle Beach trip, this was our second season. The first season we only had one team. And going into the second season, our program quadrupled, literally. We went from one team to suddenly we had 4 teams. That's how many players we had. So we only had 4 practices total before Myrtle Beach. One of those practices was a huge tryout, scrimmage, massive people, kids from all over the place. So we didn't have teams separated. The second practice we had, we still didn't have the teams separated. We did not clearly define a green or a blue team until we got to Myrtle Beach. And the reason we couldn't do that is because we were still recruiting for our 18U team. We didn't have enough players for our 18U team. And that was a huge concern for us going into our Myrtle Beach trip. Our season started in January. We had tryouts in January. Our first tournament was February 21st. There's only 4 weeks between the time of tryouts and the time of the first tournament. We never had a chance to establish teams until we got to Myrtle Beach. That never happened because we couldn't.
All right. The only thing I'm asking about is what about the yelling? I'm not saying coaches don't yell. I get that. But I mean, he was humiliated. What about that? Do you remember that?
Yes, I remember that morning very well. So we had to submit rosters that morning for the tournament prior to, of course, participating. So we had to put the guys on rosters, and like Ms. Travell mentioned, we didn't have an exact roster as far as for you're on this team, you're on that team. My goal as a coach is to balance out our roster as best as possible. So he was on the green team, but we had to, like I said, balance out the roster. He was not the only young man moved over. And just to let you know as well, out of the 80 teams that was in the tournament, both our teams finished top 10.
3rd and 5th.
You see what I'm saying? So
3rd and 5th.
we did a pretty good job as far as balancing out the roster, and that's the only thing. He, like I said, he wasn't the only young man that moved over.
Okay, here's what I think about this. You come across like a really nice man, and it looks like you have some real talent, so that's not an issue here. However I decide, you can go home feeling that you may have a very nice career in football, and you become famous, don't forget me. But here's the deal. Even just recently, we saw the final game of the World Series, and Tampa had this pitcher, the starting pitcher, who was doing tremendously. And the manager comes out, took out his best pitcher, which turned out to be a very controversial decision. The end of that story, of course, is that he got tagged for some runs and Tampa lost the game. I give you that story to bring all of this home. In this moment, as hurtful as that is, and it is, and particularly when you know inside that you're probably better than a lot of the players that the coach decided to keep on that team and move you to another team. You've got a future. You'll play high school ball, and you'll play probably college ball. Please go to college. And maybe one day you go to the pros. And you'll have coaches that scream at you and yell at you and bench you or don't start you or put someone in that you know you're better than. That is part of sports. And interestingly enough, though doesn't mean much to you right now, the reason most parents put their kids into sports has nothing to do with the idea that one day they're going to be professional, because 99% of the kids will never be professional ball players. But the reason we go through this, and I'm going through it with my grandson, is what you learn, the life lessons you learn by being involved in organized sports. You learn that in life, when you're finished with sports, you're going to have a boss. And you're going to have a boss that tells you things that you just know. What is this boss telling me about? The boss is wrong, whatever. But you got to do it. This disappointment, you'll always remember it. And you'll remember the time you came to court and talked about it. But in your whole life, this will be a very minor thing. And one day, when you have kids, you're going to tell your kid, you know what? It doesn't always go your way. Sometimes the referee makes a ruling that you know is wrong. So I'm not saying you weren't hurt. You might have even been humiliated by it. I'm telling you, it's not a crime what a coach does. A coach has a lot of students there, kids there, whatever, ball players, and makes decisions, and a lot of times the decision goes against your way. I don't believe in hearing all this, that the coach went out of his way to hurt you. The coach, for whatever reason, made a decision which legally is every right to make. He's the coach. He makes the lineup. He decides who's on what team. So he put you on the blue team rather than the green team. I don't know that there's anything, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that automatically says if you're on the green team, you're better than the blue team. Well, if you're a pretty good ball player, that's obviously not the rule. So I'm not saying that the coach made the right decision. I'm not disputing anything you guys said. I'm just saying that this is a lawsuit, and in the lawsuit, there is nothing the coach did that was illegal or even wrong. I'm thinking one day I may read about you as a great, what position you play?
Receiver.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll be looking for, you'll be wearing a helmet, so I won't recognize you by your hair, but you'll, you know, you'll wave and tell me who you are. What I'm saying to you, Devin, is there's nothing against you or your mom. And Mom, God bless you, you're fighting for your son. But I can't rule that you don't owe that $250. You can't just take the money back. He has every legal right to get the $250, like he does from all the other families, that you were charged. I get a bunch of cases here where really there is one party trying to hurt the other party. I honestly believe that there was no intent to make you feel bad. The yelling, I would say, was probably unfortunate in that situation. That probably wasn't the best way to handle it, okay? But they were clearly within their right, the coach is clearly within his right to say which team you're going to be on, and because of that, I find for the plaintiff the $250.
Thank you, Judge.
He knew what team he was on before he got to Myrtle Beach.
Roster changes occur all the time, from little league to middle school to high school to collegiate, even into the professional, you know what I mean? Everything's about preparation, and then, you know, to have the young man sitting in court is kind of a unique feeling.
And no, I don't think you can just switch the day of. It doesn't work that way.
I'm just happy with the decision as well, and I'm glad that we were able to share with Devin that it was not our intention to make him feel bad at all.
Devin will no longer play on the team.
He was actually a very talented athlete, and we needed him to be on that team. So I'm glad that he was able to hear that it was a compliment to be moved and not a demotion.
I am still playing football though.
Hey YouTube, thanks for watching. For more Judge Jerry, click here. For more Jerry Springer, click here.